Alrighty, today we are working on lesson 53 in the Algebra 2 book, and we're talking about compositions of functions. The whole concept here is that we know what functions are, and we have f of x and g of x, which are both functions. And we want to use the output values from this function, g of x, and we're going to put them in to f of x and use them as input values for f of x, and then we're going to figure it out. So for example, on example 1, we have f of x equals 3x plus 5 and g of x equals x squared. If we put this output into the input here, it's going to be just like saying f of x squared. And what does that equal? Remember, then we put that in for the x here, and we get 3x squared plus 5. So basically, we put this, use this output as the input for f of x. And that's my answer for that one. Pretty simple. Now, we also need to find the domain and the range. And as you know, with a quadratic equation, it looks something like this, right? And the domain is going to be all reals, because it goes forever this way and forever this way, ever so slightly. And the domain is going to be all positives. All positives. Because this cannot be you cannot have a negative number when you have a squared in the range. So that is example 1, pretty straightforward. For example 2, we want to do the same process, but this time instead of finding f of g of x, we have a value in for x, and so we want to find f of g of 3. There are two ways to do this. Two ways. The first one is to find f of g of x and then substitute 3 in. So if we find f of g of x, remember that's going to be, we put this in for each of the x's, and we have 2x, the whole thing is squared, minus 4 times 2x, and we get 4x squared minus 8x, and then we need to find f of g of 3, and we put the 3 in here for x, and we get 4 times 3 times 3, which is 9 times 4 is 36, minus 24, and our answer is 12. Now, the second way, the other way to perform this function is to find the value of g of 3, and then you use that output as the input for f of x. So what is g of 3? Well, g of x is 2 of x, so g of 3 is 2 times 3, which equals 6. So g of 3 equals 6. We use that output, and we put it in this input. So f of g of 3, or f of 6, is going to be 6 squared minus 4 times 6, 36 minus 24, which equals 12. Which is the same answer. Those are always going to come up with the same answer if you do it correctly, and but you can do it either way, and just depends on your personal preference or which one becomes easier for you. The third example is we want to see if f of g of x is the same as g of f of x, and so let's see if this is what it comes up with. F of g of x would be, remember, we want to write it this way, or at least I do, because I know g of x is the input for that. So we're going to do 2 times 7x minus 3 equals 14x minus 3. Okay, so now let's try to swap it, and we have g of f of x, and f of x goes in this x. So we have 7 times 2x minus 3 equals 14x minus 21. And you can see clearly these do not come up with the same answers. So those are not the same. Now, the second step is we want to evaluate f of g of 3 and g of f of 3. Well, since we've already evaluated f of g of x, we can just plug in the 3 here. So that would be 14 times 3 minus 3 equals 42 minus 3 equals 39. And then we have g of f of 3, which is 14x minus 21. But instead of x, we're going to put in 3. And we have 42 minus 21 equals 21. Again, you are not going to have the same answers. They are not the same thing when you change the order. The last one we're going to do is sometimes you're going to have 3 compositions, and you're going to, you really want to start from the inside, but we're going to find f of g of h of x. So the first thing I want to focus on is this part. What is g of h of x? Well, we've already been doing this all day long, so we should know how to do g of h of x. We want to take this output and put it in as an input for g of x. So this is just going to be 4x squared minus 5. So now we want to find f of 4x squared minus 5, and we put this in for the x and f of x. So it's negative 2 times 4x squared minus 5, and that equals negative 8x squared plus 10. And that is your answer. So you can do multiple levels of compositions. Just always remember to start on the inside and work your way out. I hope that answers your questions. This can be a confusing topic, but once you get the process down, it should be very easy. So good luck.